Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the LJLOU. That's unofficial for you people that don't know our original branding. It's everywhere still. We haven't quite fully transitioned.
No,
It doesn't
who
matter.
knows?
Last one, initialize in the middle, Nightmare over the other end. Gentlemen, 4 games down already in the LJL. We've seen Sengoku 2-0, surprise, surprise. Burning Core, they're standard 1-1, and DFM not standard 1-1, but we can't dwell on these results for very long because we've got 4 more games to cover. And the first one for us to bring to our lovely viewers out there is V3 facing off against Crest Gaming Act, and these are two teams that have a lot to keep proving. This is Crest Gaming Act. They're currently tied in the standings with Axis, or at least were tying with Axis, and Rascal Jester. Hopefully they don't have to keep tying with Axis, because wouldn't want to be in that 3 and 5 bracket, but obviously Rascal Jesters, they'd like to find a win, so we'll find out how they go. V3 obviously 4-2, looking to get strong. Nightmare, V3 Esports, they need to keep winning to actually define themselves as the second best team, right?
I think they do, because until they lost their second game, we were thinking, all right, yeah, they're clear-cut second place. Only DFM have brought them down, and then Rascal Jester took a game, and suddenly we're thinking, okay, maybe not solid second place, because now if you look at it, I mean, you've got this pack of like CGA, Rascal Jester. I mean, Axes were part of that too heading into this week, but with their earlier games a little bit more difficult. Stuck at 3-3, so that means they're V3 at 4-2. We're only 1 game ahead of that pack. This is probably going to be the week where that all opens up, and that means that if CGA, Rascal Jester start making some moves and get their own 2-0 and take a game off of V3, it's a very important week for them.
Absolutely, but for Crest Gaming Act, this could be the defining week for them, where they can't the week before Super Week initialized, where being 3-3, getting at least 1, maybe 2 wins here could really change up how they think about going into these Super Week games, right?
Yeah, big time. I mean, for CGA, they have put up impressive performances against people you wouldn't have expected necessarily against. Like, they were pretty damn close to taking down DFM after Nathan pulled out some real magic in the mid lane. And then by the same token, that mid-jungle duo, which has been so explosive, has also exploded in their faces, where they have run it down into tier 1 turrets on initial ganks. And it kind of feels a little bit like CGA is still the coin flip team, still reliant on their mid laner, though this time with a bit of their jungler on top. And if they are on fire, and honestly, they've been hitting more often than not than CGA are competitive, if they don't, and sometimes if those early ganks really go wrong, then there's trouble.
But I want to take it over and use your point of that jungle matchup. But specifically, let's only focus on the jungles themselves. Kasin, the rookie from Korea, who's been having a pretty stellar first year, really showing. But he's against, in your words, Nightmare, to quote the podcast, maybe the best player in the league. Mujin, what's the matchup there, and how much pressure is Kasin going to be under in this game?
Well, the thing is, Kassin is a player that, I mean, come high tide and bad weather, will still be playing his own picks. We'll still be playing stuff like the Jin Zhao, the Rek'Sai. Heck, he's pulled out the Gragas jungle too. We don't really see Gragas jungle that much anymore. That's really important to me, because that allows CGA to play a different style of play, which a lot of these teams are just bluntly haven't been practiced against. And we've seen that, we've seen some good teams now really be shaken by CGA's aggressive early game, being able to play Prowler's Call at Rek'Sai and dive top repeatedly and stuff like that.
Pretty good, apparently.
Exactly. On the other side, though, you look at Mujin, it seems like nothing can really ruffle this guy's feathers. He's kind of just stood there like, yeah, I'll play out the early game how I want to play it, and we've seen we've seen Mujin kind of sat there like defending against Renekton and Taliyah's just as a Nidalee, just with good pathing, not necessarily with the champion matchup, which is, it's really nice to see that from a player just saying, look, for me, it's not necessarily about what situation the draft has put me into. My own play will put my team into a good position.
Okay, so last point to come over to you, Initialize. I'm wanting to get your thoughts on the bot lane of V3 facing off against Crest Gaming Act, because obviously, for me at least, I will always have a mild form of bias towards Crest Gaming Act's bot lane, because it has a rookie who I'm very fond of, Milan, but it's got the support of Alchemy, who I've had strong thoughts about. Whereas on the other side, I can't praise Reiner enough, obviously, from our world's representative from 2020, and Hollow has come in with some pedigree.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of putting it. Hollow has slipped into the very big shoes that Archer left behind relatively cleanly, honestly, especially for a guy who's effectively a rookie to a main league. I mean, he's had some challenger experience, if my memory serves, but that's kind of been it. Whereas on the other side, obviously, Milan is hot off the scouting grounds here in the LJL. He's backed up by a veteran LJL support who's been a good playmaker, but also been a bit of a awkward face checker, sometimes overstepped as well in
That's the way
Alchemy.
to phrase it, yeah.
Nay, Grendel, we remember his Nautilus plays from spring last year, and we were all wincing a little bit. But I will say, I think Hollow and Reiner have largely had better laning phases than particularly Milan, who has struggled somewhat in lane. While the team fighting, honestly, actually has been there. There's been some good team fights from those guys. So there's some real good Gale fourth plays and the like. There is still serious issues with CS discrepancies in lane, and whether that's the duo, whether that's anything else, that might be a problem. Whereas Hollow and Reiner have been relatively consummate professionals and CSs in lane, even when they've been dived multiple times, like that Jester's loss. Hollow was still doing a very good job out keeping up despite being dived multiple times.
Did he and that's something that is fair to say. There is the difference between these two players. At the moment, Milan is definitely trying to figure out how to do the laning phase more effectively. He's got the team fight down, but I think that's just a natural flair from solo queue, clearly, because we saw that in scouting grounds. But I would agree with you. I think his laning phase has definitely been maybe the weakest part, and that could be a spot that V3 could definitely exploit. Gentlemen, before we go into this match, I want to grab your quick predictions here. Are we going to be seeing V3 reign supreme, or is Crest Gaming Act going to find a way to really put a dent in V3's armor? Nightmare, you first, sir.
I think it's going to be V3. I think a lot of how CJ play the game is about that aggressive early game, particularly through unorthodox jungle picks. Mugen has shown he's pretty good at dealing with anything that you can throw at him. I think V3 have got this in the matchup.
All right, well, initialize. Is Nap going to be the tried and true tested rock of Crest Gaming Act with Nahun coming out, or is Cog and Ace going to defy that?
I think it's going to be Cog and Ace. I think it's V3. I'll have to go off my predictions as well. I'll back it up by putting it in the predictions game. V3, I think it is.
We'll be siding with both of you as well, trying to give some Crest Gaming Act a bit of flair in my statements, but no, I have to agree. V3 every day till Sunday. Like I'm not gonna bet against them. That would be crazy. But gentlemen, I believe it's time that we get into this pick and ban phase. So gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you so much, Lexi. Just waiting now on our pick and bans to be coming through, and we'll be ready to go and alive and well. But before that, we have got V3 and CGA taking to the Rift. Both of these squads kind of vying to move further up the tables. V3 dropped a game or two they really feel they shouldn't have. For a CGA, got a little bit more to work with. Or rather, a little less to work with, because they're still at that 3 and 3 point. Let me invert that comment. The better of us, but it is indeed V3 on the blue side, and CJ on the red, with Cog, Mugen, Ace, Hollow, and Reiner making up their roster.
On the other side is Crest Gaming Act. That's Nap, Kassin, Nation, Milan, and Alchemy, and we are immediately seeing the Udyr first pick. This is something which has taken pretty much the whole league world by storm.
Yep.
Even though we've seen, you know, the drain tanks of Olaf and a number of other Gordranker users slowly fall from the meta at this point. Actually, on this patch, Olaf is still very, very strong because it's 11.2. Udyr has persisted and is just continuing to be just that pick which can clear and be the utility CC bot which so many teams need this champion to be.
And I've been talking with a few coaches, and I probably mentioned this before on broadcast, but honestly, Blue 1 Udyr then forces your red side team basically into Udyr management mode, because you want picks that can effectively disengage this guy without having to burn your ultimates to do so. Because if all Udyr has to do is run at you for you to burn an ultimate, and then he can just walk away, then that's a win for Udyr. So, Gragas, obviously, body slam's not bad of it, but, you know, explosive cast can disengage, but you're still effectively using a relatively big ticket ultimate for a man who's just walking at you real fast.
There is something to do with that, but then, I mean, I look at the global win rate of Udyr versus Kai'Sa. It's something like a 36% win rate. I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head. It was pretty bad earlier in the day when we saw that same matchup. Luckily, Udyr is not going to be going into things alone, has a Rel alongside them, and Xayah's pretty good versus the Kai'Sa too, because Xayah gets a bit shoved around in lane when you're outranged. Stuff like Poke Varus was really bad for that, and Caitlyn was too. None of those champions are really in meta. Kai'Sa is certainly not amongst those class of champions. Now we're looking at the Xayah Rel into the Kai'Sa Alistar. I think that's a really good lane for Hollow and Reiner to start getting up towards that teamfight potential with a strong early laning phase.
Yeah, and of course, as you said, part of the thing is Kai'Sa can also dodge away from Udyr pretty well, has got the supercharger, has got herself a killer instinct, lots of ways to dodge away from a man running at you, or you add an Alistar on top of that Gragas. That's a fair few ways to prevent Udyr from doing his job as easily as he might like. So decent ideas from CGA, but I have to agree, I think the Xayah is a strong choice here. I also think Reiner on this Rel that's been so high priority at the minute is a really good pickup as well. We've seen a lot of Rel Alistar for good reason. I think both these champions are pretty strong right now. Looking now, I suppose, into the second phase of bans. We've got the Orianna away from Ace, who has been prioritizing that relatively heavily, and it's also a pretty standard pick in the meta.
Kind of strange, because Ace is... well, Ace never really played Orianna before one game of the finals last year, and that didn't look particularly comfortable versus DFM. They lost that game. That was one of their 2 losses in that series.
No, it really
But
wasn't
actually,
good.
no,
Yeah.
Ace has been doing decently on that pick in the games he's played in Spring so far. The Silas being taken away, that's much more interesting to me. That makes me think, okay, are CGA going to go towards something like an on top, and do they think Cog was going to play that, or has Ace been picking up that champion too? Because I can't think
believe
that.
I've seen
I don't
Cog
think
play it before.
I don't think Ace has played Silas mid, but the thing is that Silas has not really played top lane anymore, which is why I'm a bit surprised at the ban. And the Yasuo, okay, that's a Nahun special.
That is absolutely a Nahun special. And when you're looking at this guy who's been willing to pull out the likes of Rumble mid and then go 14 kills on it, there's a few champions you do need to be wary of for this guy who's been a very strong contender in the league thus far.
So somehow Olaf falls all the way through to Red 4 on patch 11.2. That's a little surprising for me. But what that does mean now, what it does mean is that we're not going to see the Gragas jungle. It means that we're going to go see the Olaf jungle and the Gragas, most notably top lane now. There's very small chance of going into mid. Although, I mean, there's just leaving the window open in case CGA are doing something a little strange yet again. So CGA, we thought that they might go towards one of these early Kassin special junglers. They're not. They're going towards that Olaf, which has more of that farming carry threat. Now it's going to be up against that Zoe from Ace.
And Ace's Zoe has been one of his staples, even last year when this guy was maybe a little less dominant in the lane. His Zoe was still something to be afraid of. He used to roam so well on it and did some really, really impressive things on the champion. So now that he seems to be focusing a little bit more on having a bit more control in lane, at least from what we've seen thus far in the split, Zoe fits still right into that wheelhouse, and you lock it in alongside a Nard. That feels like a fairly standard choice for the top lane. It's not bad into the Gragas, and that just leaves CGA with a mid laner to pick up, and thinking about that rumble that Nahun has had beforehand. It is locked in.
It's something which I've been asking for a very long time now, because we saw it that one time from CGA. What Rumble gives you is permanent backline target access, because you see the Xayah, you see the Zoe, they are champions which aren't going to be moving huge amounts in a fight. I mean, Xayah can do with the Gale Force, stuff like that, but if you drop that red carpet onto the Zoe as they've ulted forward and they ult back, when you build the Night Harvester build, you can just burst out those champions, and it's really important versus champions like Victor and Senna, who are definitely permanently in the backline. Works still for these champions which don't have so much mobility of their own right, and I think that this is an important team fight pick for CGA.
Nice answer into some of those immobile, or at least predictable carries, is probably the way I'll put it with something like a Zoe. You know exactly where she's going back to, even if she's doing it from weird angles. But on the other side, you have got Ace's Zoe, you've still got Cog and Nard, Hollow over on this Xayah with Reiner on something so high priority as well. That's not a bad amount of playmaking tools for V3 either, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, I look at V3 and I think, okay, well, Muujin's been a big playmaker for them, so has Reiner, so has Cog. Those are the 3 which I look at first. And then you've kind of got Ace and Hollow kind of duking it out in team fights and putting on their dancing shoes, but they're not really the ones starting the play. The 3 players who do have more of that that role within this team have picks which are, they're very tier list picks right now. We've seen Nard do very effectively. into a lot of different comps. I mean, the early split now was a bit of a problem when he was just getting dumpstered by Camille all the time. I think we're slowly seeing a bit more of a resurgence in good Gnar play, because we saw kind of like some
Yes.
standard Gnar play. But now we're actually getting to the point where teams are more practiced around playing around the Gnar, and in terms of we're forcing objectives when we know that Mega Gnar is coming. We can do that. If we have control of this objective, we can do that. And then you look at Rhino, who has been maybe the best playmaker of last year, even alongside Boogie, who's now of course left for other regions, is onto one of the premier playmaking picks. So I think in terms of the player roles within this V3 team, I think they're relatively happy with that.
So, but with that in mind, we have, I think, got 2 drafts which can definitely undo what the other wants to do. We've seen Nap and Nathan. The last time they pulled out a Gragas Rumble combo, eviscerated people. It was incredible the kind of things these two were pulling off onto the backliners of their opposing team, which I believe, I'm trying to remember who that was against now. I have to go back and check out the stats. Burning Core, possibly? I forget the game. Either way, it was really cool. And I remember the plays. I just don't remember the... actually, I think it was the Hawks, looking back now. No, wait. Hachimacha.
Wait, it was DFM. It was V3. It was CGA.
Okay.
It was...
I can't remember. I think I can't remember. Anyway, it was really cool. I'm going through all the teams blindly and forgetting exactly which one it was. I believe it's Hachimacha's Jarvan, so that will be the Jesters, isn't it, for that one? With that in mind, though, obviously for the other side, it's the likes of Ace. Obviously, we mentioned his Zoe already. It's been pretty impressive, as we said. And like, I am curious to see how Muujin does on something that's not like as aggressive as an Italy, and well, not as damaging as an Italy. I still think Udio is relatively aggressive, and because it is so high priority, I do want to see what this guy does on this kind of type of champion.
Well, I mean, we did see the one time when there was that one Ivern competition coming through from V3, as far as I remember. So that's definitely something to watch out for, because they have a little practice on that, and it just seems like, again, to me, Muujin's been comfortable on whatever you put him on. Now it's just a case of how the team plays around it.
Absolutely is. We're on to the Rift now as well. Got this 5-man fan. Doesn't look like we're getting too much in the way of early level 1 shenanigans, which I feel like we haven't seen a lot of, honestly, across most competitive play. There's not been a lot of concerted level 1 plays, I feel.
I mean, a lot of level 1 players come from what can you do with like a support advantage, particularly when you have something like Braum, Nautilus, Morgana. Those are the 3 which I use in my typical example. Their level 1 is so strong, and often you don't have so many ways to really outdo that unless you have, again, one of those champions on the other side of things. I guess with the likes of Sion coming back into meta, level 1s get a bit more dangerous too, because if you go into a fully stacked Sion queue, things go really, really badly, really, really quickly. Either way, I think what you stand to lose from a level 1 often outweighs what you stand to gain, because if you lose a doubled crab because of awkward pathing, because of early vision taken up by one team, it can really put you behind, because those double scuttles give so much in the current meta.
They really do. And I've also got to call out, aside from double scuttles, a couple interesting rune choices, namely that Nap has gone for Comet on the Gragas, which suggests an AP build rather than the Grasp, which has been the go-to for tanks. And then obviously he's also, Milan has gone Hail of Blades on the Kai'Sa. So interesting choice.
I would agree with the Comet Dragus thing, but also I just know that even stuff like Malphite, who goes tank in the top side, when they do that, can go for Comet into ranged matchups, just to have that extra poke. So I wonder if this is just for a little bit of lane dominance.
Lane dominance as well. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see if that actually ends up just being for the AP route, because if you're going for the AP route, often you see actually I'm actually not so sure what okay, maybe it is the comment actually then as your primary rumen on the AP Gragas. Either way, interesting to see what happens there, because that means that you're looking at Ace, looking at Hollow, and you look at this Gragas Rumble combo and you think, all right, okay, if they're both going really high damage, that's a good way to remove them at the start of the fight, and V3 need those two to stay alive for a long time, really.
Muujin throws down the ward and spots Casanova on these chickens, but that means that Muujin feels, well, with him over there, I can force an emote onto Nation, which is true devastating mental warfare. And I don't think Nation will ever have the chance to recover after that.
No, that's it. That's game over already. Congratulations, V3, on 5-2. They've got a nice game shortly. No, unfortunately not. We do have there's a mid lane being shoved in. One of the things about Rumble versus Zoe is that particularly because Zoe kind of wants to hit this sweet spot where she can start slinging through her spells, but also have a long enough range on her paddle star to get the maximum damage out of that. Rumble, if he just runs at you and hits stuff with like the Elytra Harpoon and starts running up to you, you don't disengage Rumble too well. You can end up getting out-traded pretty hard by this Rumble pick.
Yes, you can. And it was versus the Jesters that he last pulled out the Rumble pick and went 14-0-7 on the pick.
So this is great, right? Because of course we've got the Jesters playing today in these set 4 games too, and they're all fighting against each other. All of them have taken games off of each other. V3 losing to Rascal Jesters losing to CGA. That this is now a lot of different ways you can view this, and this Scuttle is viewing a lot of champions around this river.
Oh, V3 and Scuttle grab priority. I feel I've seen this before. They do smite for the crab, get it out, but now Muujin had to flash away, and Cassin still won the smite fight. So, a lot of summoners burn there, looking at the Ghost for the flash of Muujin, but Ghost, largely speaking, is a significantly shorter cooldown than the 5 minutes of flash.
It is. So, I mean, Cassin gets the level up from Scuttle. It's the level 3 to 4 fight. You go through a full clear, and you have that Scuttle, and yeah, you level up to level 4. That's why it's really important if junglers end up meeting that objective. Cassin ends up smiting for it, so gets the advantage, and now Uda doesn't have one of their primary playmaking opportunities, whereas Cassin is probably much more happy to farm up on this Olaf until level 6 at least.
So, with that in mind, let's just keep a little eye on where the lanes are. It's relatively even aside from in that jungle where obviously Cassin got himself that slight edge in that river fight, but that does leave us with about a 200 gold lead, and that's all she wrote home about. But would you really be expecting all that much difference at 5 minutes, Nymera? I suspect probably not.
Nah, we're all right. Still don't have a kill coming through. Still don't have really sizable CS leads. Everything's staying somewhat even. I guess the big thing is there's a double Scuttle of the Olaf. That's the biggest thing in this early game so far. And we saw what happened with that on the top side, actually. The cost of getting that double Scuttle is not even against CGA because they burned that flash on Uda in the first place. So yeah, in the jungle matchup, which we have, of course, said was very important in this game. Looks like CJ getting the best of it so far.
Okay. Reiner just hopping over, helping his jungler out with Krugs one for round, getting some vision control down, as Rel and Reiner want to do as supports, and everything else relatively stable right now. Nothing much going on aside from we are seeing a little bit of a ping towards this first Drake. I suspect just for vision control rather than necessarily to start it up. Though it is an Olaf and he is level 6, so he could very happily just go at this dragon and feel happy about it.
He can do. It's not like Uda can't solo it either. Is a level behind though, so probably doesn't want to be giving any more openings, because if you start doubling down as a jungler on plays which are kind of awkward, things go from bad to worse very, very quickly. I guess other things to keep an eye on now is that we've got ultimate starting to become available. What happens if we get a big bot lane pass and Nahun teleports in? Of course, Ace hasn't got that themselves, gone for the electrocute, not gone for the spellbook or the comma or anything like that, alongside a teleport. So they won't be able to go react to that play. And reacting to the plays around the map, we see that Cassin goes immediately onto that dragon, as you were saying, and Muujin struggling to find any ingress into CGA's lanes right now.
Yeah, he went to look and see whether there was anything on the red side. There was nothing at all, so wastes 20 seconds of his time looking for camps that aren't up. And Seb will have to retreat over to his blue side.
We'll do for now. Nahun shoves in, and now we're looking at, what are we looking at next? I mean, we're looking at 1 minute until Herald, and that's when we start saying, our team's going to start rotating towards it, actually because of the even map state and the lane state more appropriately within that bot lane. Probably not from CJ as they've just got shoved in. What we might be seeing is Reiner and Hollow trying to shove in and then roam with the priority that they've got just right now.
Also got to say, credit, this feels more patronizing than I think I intended to, but Milan, this is him staying even in lane, which is fantastic.
We've seen a lot of awkward trades, yes.
Exactly. We've seen a lot of games where Milan has been in a really unfortunate state by this time in the game, down 10 to 15 CS. Staying pretty even with Hollow and Reiner, who have been one of the better bot lanes in the league. Feels pretty good for these guys on CGA, and I'm sure Mass One will be very pleased to see one of his scouting ground rookies stepping up in lane where it has been something of an issue in weeks and games past.
I mean, it has been, right? I mean, Milan's had a couple of flashy team fights, but outside of that, it's been pretty dire for the CGA bot lane. Alchemy as well, struggling to make an impact like they did do, particularly in the second half of, I guess the first half of summer as well. CGA had a good regular split in the last split of 2020. It's just that when you came through to a couple of those key matches, Alchemy still was struggling from getting caught out across the map, and right now. They are going to reset and head towards that Herald, but it looks like it's going to be too late as Kogok and Mugen straight over onto that Herald.
Yep, they're onto it. It's going down pretty damn fast. Cassin is around, but I think he's just going to be far too late with the eye being popped. Mugen picks that and runs away dressed as a bear.
So the hilarious thing there, Mugen actually dodged the paddle star, and I was like, yeah, I would have dodged that too. And then I realized, wait, Ace is on his team. That's
I know. It's just that is solo queue Twitch reactions. Like, nope, bubbles flying at me.
Nope, not about that life. Anyway, he's upgraded into his Chilling Smite. Cassin has 1 Smite left to get that on his own Olaf. So we do see that Hail Blade not quite complete from Cassin. That means he's got his full build, full itemization. That's it. No spots left in the inventory. Good job, Cassin.
No, this is it. You know, he's never getting stronger than this. Perhaps in patches past, that's probably not entirally far off for Olafs of the past who are like,
okay,
I get
you've
one
hit level
item
6,
and then I
everything
fall
is
off a
downhill
cliff.
from here.
Yeah, so there's like downhill and then there's like skydiving and then
this is like the ski jump. This where you can float for a little while, but inevitably you are heading downwards.
That's the one. Either way, we're not quite there anymore. Olaf's still very strong. It's still 11.2, and everything else relatively even for now. CGA. Sorry, go on.
Next thing is that Nap is going for the tank build. See the tier in infantry, yes, but it has got the Panda Cinder coming up. So just looks like the comet was just for that laning phase.
Was that poke?
Not in the lanes in the jungle. Cassin and Mugen do nothing. They look at each other and they say, "How nice." How nice to see a jungler in the same part of the map, and they do absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah. Allow me to give you a housewarming gift, and throws an axe at him, which was a little bit unnecessary. But Vikings aren't known for their their social skills.
One thing I'd be interested to know, because I don't have the stats up right now, is actually how many times Nathan has played this Rumble before. Because Rumble Mid was, I think, particularly in season 8 and 9, well, more in season 9 when we saw Doinby come onto the scene and really start blowing open games with that. But Nathan looked pretty proficient on this in the last game, of course, got some really close outplays in those team fights versus Rascal Jesse, as you're saying. Because when you come into matchups like the Zoe Rumble matchup, a lot of it does come down to familiarity, because it is some of the more unorthodox laning styles. Ace, we know, does play a lot of that, Zoe. I think actually it's their second most played, just behind Jace. Actually, Little Blanc might be up there too. I mean, you need to go check out those numbers. But Nahan seems to be doing a decent job in this laning phase, because you can get bullied out, because at the end of the day, you are a melee champion into a mage matchup. We see what happens with that when you're playing, like, even stuff like Vladimir, which is just like a slightly lower range champion. If you're playing melee into someone like Orianna or whatever, you can fall behind quite a lot, whereas Nahan has been pretty happy right now.
Happy is one way of putting it. I think, I completely agree. It's relatively even. He's feeling pretty happy. The only thing I will say is he's now level 9, and we've yet to see an equalizer. And there is something about Rumbles and the first couple equalizers and using that power spike as quickly and aggressively as you can that tends to tell you how a Rumble game's going to go. And the fact that trigger hasn't been pulled yet is perhaps a slight worry. But there's a dragon fight coming up, and if this isn't a chance to use an equalizer, I don't know what is.
Yeah, CJ have not made any attempts to make a play around their bot lane with a big engage, even though they were being pushed in. I think the vision control from Reiner too strong at that point, and the dragon's being started and gone down.
Dragon goes down, but that is also the Magnet Storm used. In goes. I've got to see the Cog just getting slowed down. Milan having to flash away, got slowed down for a while there with the Killer Instinct. Cog is there. He's going to get a Meganar into the wall. Udyr gets first blood on the other side, and CGA in full retreat, but it's only the one for none, and they still get the Drake, but there's a lot of summoners and a lot of ultimates burned by CGA.
But they don't even use the equalizer, so that shows really what opportunities showed themselves in that fight. Well, notably, not that many. It was, at the start of it, a lot of CGA very clustered around that dragon, and really failed to get in towards that backline, or at least isolate the targets that they needed to. Cog teleports in with a full rage bar, but has to flash immediately out. That could have gone much, much worse. I think actually that's one of the better case scenarios for CJ from that team fight, because that could have gone a lot worse by my eye.
Could have gone a lot worse. Could definitely have gone a lot better. Could definitely have been a situation where you get the equalizer off, but we'll see the replay now. And Reiner going very deep and kind of goes on from there.
So Alchemy goes in deep, but the Herald is already mid lane. That's why Nation's been tied up. If you have the equalizer at the start of that fight, sure, maybe you can start doing something a bit more with that. Cog gets cast away, does get in pretty deep. At the end of the day, it is just Kassin who's caught out in the middle of nowhere, really, and kind of in no man's land. But CGA just feels like they had to deal with that Herald for far too long in that mid lane as it was summoned to try and knock down that mid lane out of turret. Is that, the quote-unquote counterweight strategy where you try and draw the Eye of Sauron away from the Black Gate, do it somewhere else more important. But CGA, yeah, struggling to get themselves a clean team fight. It wasn't front to back. It was too omnidimensional for them. And wait, Mugen doesn't steal that, but was close.
He gave it a go. It was definitely on vision. But no steal comes through as yet. Cassin retains control of his red buff. And I do have also got to call out a little bit of an interaction from that last fight as well, whereas Cassin Killer Instincted through Ace's bubble and therefore finished his Killer Instinct asleep and couldn't Q any damage. So yeah, Milan, sorry. Yes, I don't know who I said there. But yeah, Milan.
It's like
Killer
Olaf has Killer Instinct. That's a new one for me.
So yeah, hang on, just a moment there. Like, no, I meant the Kaiser. Apologies, yes, Milan. And that was a bit frustrating because he was trying to follow up on Alchemy's headbutt Polv and couldn't do so because he was asleep having Killer Instinct.
Also, I mean, so well, Reiner got right on top of him with that Magnustorm too. So the Reiner's singling out rather, not actually getting the kill, but singling out that Kaiser to just say, yeah, you're not going to fight effectively. Cassin gets a bubble landed on them. I'm not sure they're going to care about this too much. Decent amount of damage. But at the end of the day, what's the next thing that we're fighting for? Probably Herald. 2 Dragon advantage for CJ now puts a bit more emphasis on those Dragon fights too. Is that,
early 2 Dragons too.
Yeah, early 2 Dragons, and it's coming up to that Mountain Rift when they do have a tank in both jungle and top lane and support, right? There's 3 tanks which can use those stats. And Reiner would like a few more of those stats right now.
Oh, there is the headbutt pole, but the Void Seeker misses, which does mean Milan doesn't manage to find his way in. And Hollow turning around a lot of the damage. Unbreakable Will has to be popped by Alchemy, but it does give CGA, I was about to say control over the river, but Milan just takes about 3, or nearly all of his health bar. He's got 20% left. Ace lands another bubble. That is so much damage. And now the Ragnarok has to put Reiner in trouble. Equalizer also strong, but Cassin desperately low, has got Gordrick healing his way up, but Ace cleans up Gragas at the back end of it, and Olo stepping forwards, calls the feathers back and gets another.
Ace single-handedly winning the situation for V3. He gets a poke combo onto Milan, which takes him out of the fight. Gets another bubble down across the team. I look at this Zoe and I think, all right, okay, we don't see this too often. Can Ace have one of his better Zoe games? This is how it starts. The Rumble Ult wasn't enough to turn around the early HP advantage for V3 on this blue side of the Rift, and of course, Herald goes alongside with it. So yeah, I mean, there's already the Plasma passive onto Reiner because the CC comes through. Milan could have chosen to ult forward, does miss the Void Seeker, but just says, okay, yeah, maybe not good to go into the Xayah because Hollow, yeah, is really strong at this point. Milan eats most of his HP bar at that point. It's like, okay, so CJ, you've just lost most of the HP on your AD carry. Why are you sticking around? What have you got to show? I guess the one thing they say is maybe we can blow someone up with our big combo. Nap doesn't have flash at this point, but I don't understand why they're committing this hard when you know your AD carry is completely out of the fight.
I'll also say that Explosive Cask knocked Ace off of the Equalizer, which was a little bit unfortunate. It did allow them to get the 1 kill by pairing up those 2 ultimates, but it wasn't quite enough. Herald is used in mid lane to claim that turret. That is first turret to V3, and they are now up actually a significant amount of gold, about 2,000 there, purely off those last couple of plays. We're going to have to talk about other things a little later because we've got a dragon fight to start. And Frostfire Gauntlets on your Gragas are not as important as the AD carry. Getting engaged on Hollow over the wall, though, does survive. The Undertow nearly takes him out with the burn coming out as well, but that does leave the AD carry of V3 this time chunked out before the fight. 3rd dragon goes the way of CGO, though no kills picked up alongside of it.
So while there now is a gold advantage for V3, the intangible not shown in that gold is, of course, 3 dragons of various forms to CGA. 1 mountain, 1 ocean, 1 cloud. That cloud dragon is going to be very important because this is a team which wants to be fighting around its ultimates. That cask just has far too many uses in this game, and having even stuff like the Ragnarok to face check more effectively does allow CGA a couple more blunders and missteps before things get truly dire. Say if they're trying to face check around a Baron and have, the 10% CDR off of that Olaf ultimate, which they might have to burn in that situation, it gives them couple more chances to get out scot-free. V3, though, still have the run of the map, all things said and done, because their duo lane is pushing in, because Kog'Og is pushing in Nap too, has that level advantage. And slowly but surely, these towers are getting chipped down around the map on the side of CGA.
You can see as well, Hollow definitely up a fair amount, about 800 gold over his lane opponent in Milan, doing pretty well. 1-0-2, Essence Reaver completed. Interestingly, it is the Essence Reaver first. It's tech we've seen on Ezreal, but it is not going to, Lucian as well, but it does mean not towards the, absolutely. And as a result, it's not that mythic item first, like the Kraken Slayer in on the Kai'Sa alongside that Dirk, which is her go-to tech. And V3 are hatching a war down here in the bot lane, and they'll know that's happening because the minions just aggroed towards them in the bush. And so that'll give away that they were on Vision.
So why do you go Essence Reaver first on Xayah? What's the tech without? Why are you doing it? Well, part of it is because you get 20%, not 20%, but 20 ability haste. Really important for your ultimate. And Alchemy, speaking of ultimates, doesn't actually have to blow one right now, but Mugen is continuing to chase. Finally gives up as the cow gets out of the river.
Yes. The tech. Tell me the tech.
Tech. Okay, so you get ability haste.
And
having a Sheen build early and late, it helps with your trading, right? It helps with those bursty trades, and particularly when you've got someone like Kai'Sa and Alistar who do want short trades to try and get the full burst down, turning around with the Sheen proc. And also just the mana regen properties of Essence Reaver allows Xayah to stay in lane a lot longer, have that ultimate up a little bit more often, and Cog does not have ultimate. He has no Mega now.
Has to flash away, does so, but Cassid has used the Ragnarok, doesn't hit the undertows at the end of it all, but it does force the Gnar away from the turret. They can't quite claim it, though, because there's not enough of a wave.
So that's Cassin missing 2 axes back to back, as Cog does have the fancy feat. So Gnar gets out, burns flash, sure, that's important. Still has the Stride Breaker to help with positioning that ultimate very slightly within team fights. We've seen a number of players across the world use that Stride Breaker to great effect within the team fights. But now I look at this and say, okay, well, you burnt Ghost for Cassin, you didn't get the tower. CJ yet to have a tower anyway. CJ needs to make things stick around this next dragon fight, because that's what this entire game has been building up to so far. Wait, Milan, you just counter-jungled your own raptors.
I saw that.
Buddy.
Yeah, he took a lot of HP trade as well from those raptors, interestingly, which was probably not what he was looking for, as that bubble got precipitously close, but not quite over the edge, and to taking Milan's HP bar to dangerously low levels. And Ace, he's been hunting for a few of those. He's gone for the Leandri's Anguish on the Zoe, which is perhaps not what I would normally expect. I kind of, my go-to my mind would be the
melee, quite HP stacky champions.
Precisely, but in this game, I think it does make a lot of sense when you've got so many HP builders, really.
Well, does Nap have enough HP to stand under this turret? No, he doesn't. Tower goes down.
He does indeed. About 1 minute and 10 or so until this Mountain Dragon, and that would be sole fight for CGA. The problem is they are down about 2,500 gold, and that gold discrepancy could make this fight a little difficult, but they've already set themselves up to at least force fights around this dragon, and they've definitely got a comp that can win in those 5v5s.
They do. I mean, the 5v5s are ultimately where this game is going to come down to, because V3 have not one-handedly enough across the map outside of the 5v5s to win this game. So, because they've managed to get themselves gold advantages, but is that enough to get them item advantages to really make this next fight very important? Well, one big thing coming into it is that there is an item discrepancy in those AD carries. Gale Force now completed for Hollow, ability to maybe get off of that equalizer or get into the enemy team and just say, all right, I'm going to start flinging feathers everywhere. V3 have the waves pushed in mid lane, and I think slowly pushing out in bot too. See if CGA can get into this river and set up their wombo more successfully than the last time.
They did at least get the speed shrine off the Scuttle Crab, did CGA, but they are down all their outer turrets and have not managed to get a single turret in trade as yet, and is making control of these waves really difficult for them right now, and it's V3 in the river. Of course, that uncontestable vision in the speed trap is really helpful. Nahud is a very fast fire-spitting rumble. Got himself up to about half that heat, but in goes Ryder from off of vision. The Magnet Storm is huge, and down goes Olaf before the fight can even begin. Ryder goes down in trade. CGA, the look at Cog going in. Ace gets another, so does Hollow, and suddenly it's a 3 for none. Make that a 4 for none, and it's only Nation who's trying to escape, gets hit by the bubble. Ace has been on point with all of those. Can't quite claim his life, but they'll claim the team fight win, and they'll move over to claim that Mountain Drake. What a fight from V3.
Reiner is just dead on with that engage. Does go down for it, ends up in a 4 for 1. Not quite able to get themselves that clean set of kills, but it starts with the vision control. We're saying, all right, can CJ get into the river? Can they set up their wombo? Not before Reiner gets into the thick of things. Gets to 4-man crash down Magnet Storm. It's not, the Ragnarok doesn't come through quick enough to deny that. Hollow gets a 3-man route, I think all things said and done. Milan at least manages to flash out and start pumping out some damage in their own right, but I mean, just look at Cog immediately forced the flash back in return. And by that point, you know, one team is clumped in a wombo combo situation, and the other one is split. Means that the one that is clumped gets hit by all the AoE and gets absolutely torn to shreds. Look at that damage graph. Hollow, I reckon half that damage came in from that initial Featherstorm into the Blade Caller.
Yeah, it was a storm of feathers. Hitchcock would be proud because the birds were definitely terrifying.
Kassin,
But Kassin, looking for a flank, but was on sweeper vision. They're still going to run at Ace, got a lot of healing, and now Ace is in so much trouble, gets shut down. Nice play from CGA. They thought they caught Kassin, and instead it was a return. But can V3 find any more? It doesn't look like it's going to be possible. The tower in the top side did fall down. But Gale Force gets 2! They got chucked out too much. The boulder toss into that Gale Force was gorgeous and Hollow. What amazing heads-up play.
Yeah, it's very opportunistic because you see, okay, CJ, they take the kill. They've got Zoe. Let's push in the wave. And then 2 feathers get recalled, a boulder toss hits. That's actually a lot of chunk damage at this point. They see the play, they go in, and now Baron is on the table. There's no jungler from CGA, and there is an ultimate still available from Hollow.
The equalizer was decent, but Mugen in the back of the pit still going at the Baron, but the Magnet Storm into the Mega does so much work. Gragas is dead. Nation about to fall to Cog in the 1v1, and it's another double to Hollow, who already claimed the double to start this all off, and you know what would go really well with that double? A big purple worm.
And absolutely nothing hollow about this AD carry. He is full of kills, gold, and game-winning plays. Kassin running up towards the Baron is going to be far too late. He's gone down. The sleep lands too.
Ooh, does get Rhino, who goes a little bit too greedily over the wall, so does at least get the support in trade, but that's a very thin silver lining. We'll watch this replay one more time, because Kassin, after this pick, you thought CGA had a good moment here.
Absolutely, because one of the balancing factors about Zoe is that if you ever get on top of her, she struggles, and because Olaf gets in very close, manages to take down Ace, and you think, okay, well, look at this. Feathers come through. Okay, right, that's not the root, but then the Boulder Dust comes through, and Hollow's like, right, okay, well, I'm a level up on their jungler and their AD carry. I have a lot of items, and I'm a big bird now. I can, no Sesame Street involved. Slightly more aggressive than that. It's a little more edgy on the side of things. Gets a brace of kills to go over towards this Baron. Really well played from the side of E3. And as you were saying, it's heads up play which wins this play for them.
Yeah, maybe it's Big Bird if you have that, that one YouTube video where they overthrow break stuff from Limp Bizkit over the top of it. But
well, he's breaking some spines right now and some ankles too. As he's just like by God, he's broken in half. As CJ get I don't know, something about steel chair references. I didn't watch WWE growing up. I wish I did. I feel like I'm missing out a lot from my casting repertoire because of that now.
There's still time, my friend. There's still time. But let's check in a little bit with where we're at in this goal, because it's now a 7,000 gold lead off the back of that series of plays, and it is showing up in some of these item discrepancies. Hollow is just a full item ahead of Milan at this point. And you're looking at a Horizon focus in second for Zoe as well to really make the most of her range options, alongside, of course, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, which does...
Well, this is the thing. Horizon Focus
great stuff then.
Yeah, I mean, the Horizon Focus is one of the few things in the game which increases true damage. Besides that, I'm thinking, well, okay, I mean, you've got Ari's Charm, which increases the true damage off of her Q. True damage is literally unable to be changed outside of those 2 instances, because it is meant to be true damage. So having that, affecting slept targets, you hit someone with the bubble and you hit them with the power, so it's like, oh, wait, I didn't expect to take an extra 10% damage on top of this already hilariously high damage combo. So, and the amount of AP that comes through from it means that Ace is in a very good spot with those items, and is building towards Morello too, which I think is more than fine, given that you do have that Olaf getting right into the thick of things, and is a key part of CJ's composition. Unfortunately, a little too far behind to really impact things now, though.
Right. Here go CGA, though. It's 20 seconds until this Dragon. They want this kill. Hollow goes down. That is a massive pick-off just as the resets are about to come through. Just as this dragon spawns, the major carry is dead, and it is now a 4 versus 5. Cog is teleporting to the top lane saying, screw it, we cannot fight for this soul, but instead I will split push with the dregs of this Baron and try to get something out of it. But Cassin goes down, and remember, he's got no Ragnarok, but they can't quite get on top of him. So the dragon's still going to be started, but there's enough damage and Muujin around that he could still go for a steal. Cassin goes down! Ace finds the snipe! It's a disaster for CGA. Nap is slept as well, but Milan, rather, does manage to pick up the mountaintop of the fight. Still continuing. He goes down to Ace as well, and in the 5 versus 3, CGA get the dragon but lose 2.
Heroics from V3. Heroics from this time in the mid lane of Ace gets the pick onto the jungler, which makes things dicey as all heck. Cog doesn't even feel the need to head down towards that fight. Takes down a turret, takes down an inhibitor at the end of it too. V3 give up that Mountain Soul, but honestly, with what they've gotten around the map, this is still not a bad trade for them per se.
Yeah, I'm not even sure whether Nahum was around that fight, so it might have been a 4 versus 3. I'd have to go back and check the replay. Either way, it's led to, yes, a Mountain Soul for CGA, but their brace is in half. They have no inhibitor turrets remaining. They have lost the inhibitor in topside. They have 2 turrets by the Nexus, and that is it as far as defensive structures go.
And on the other side, CGA have taken precisely 1 turret. I mean, just before this replay, of course, we saw the pick onto Hollow, where I was like, Olaf's a bit too far behind to impact the game anymore. Well, Caster Curse, never more true. The sleep lands, but there is no portal jump at that point. I mean, Ace would have had to flash over to get that kill. Doesn't particularly want to trade his own life. It is actually that 4v3 because Rumble is still around the map clearing out wave duty, and you think, okay, well, we've got a smite, we've got Alchemy to play goalkeeper. We can start playing around that. They do get that one. They do end up getting the dragon, even though the smite ends up dying beforehand, and Muujin was present. But, of course, the fight is just so handily going in favor of E3 right now. And honestly, the Mountain Soul might change a few things, but given how well they're playing with their range advantage and how strong their AD carry is right now, I'm not sure that Mountain Soul wins them the game, you know?
I'm not sure either. Yes, those defense stats are nice. Yes, it will help stop some of the ridiculous burst coming up, particularly of Ace at this point in the game, but it might just be too little too late. There are 3 items on that mid lane. There are 4 plus a stopwatch on Hollow. And that is a very difficult task to match. 3 items are now complete for Milan, but Cassin does run across a bubble trap, but does not.
He puts it on his Mountain Soul tab. He says, all right, I'll put it on the shield, and we'll regen that later. And I mean, the thing is that, like, I mean, we knew that the win condition from CJ was you gotta get Mountain Soul at this point. That's the only thing which might change this game. They gave up 3 turrets for it, and that's the point we're thinking, all right, have we actually given away too much now, as Alchemy just about gets away without losing most of the HP bar? It's a Mountain Rift with a winning mid lane map state for Zoe. It's a very dangerous position. Every time you go in, you are risking something, and Cassin playing riskily is that now the counter teleport comes through.
That's a 3rd bubble in a row that lands. The teleport does come through from Nap. V3 forced that option out of CGA, and now they might be looking for more. Muujin around the side would love to get a bear slap onto an important target. It's just Nap for now. Cog does take him very low, but there's a lot of shields, a lot of heals, and now Nap is in trouble. In comes the equalizer, but it's just going to be a little too late. And it's only on Tanar, who, yes, is a little low, but it's not enough to finish. Now Cassin is in trouble, has to pop Ragnarok as the bubble lands again from Ace. He has been a sniper in these last few moments. Look at the Hex Flash, but it doesn't come to anything. That Battlestar misses. Electrocute comes through, but the inhibitor falls afterwards as something of an afterthought. Ace hopping forwards takes in the Cathian Rain, but it's not that much of his health bar, frankly. Looking at the bottom inhibitor as well, and V3 will claim all inhibitors. Magnet Storm turnaround. Stays onto the Milan's Kaiser. The Mega Gnar back away from the safety of the turrets. Nahum falls as well. Cassin left alone healing, but it's not enough. The white flag comes up from V3A, and it is a mocking last emote. V3 will claim the game here at 32 plus minutes. Well played from them into around some of these team fights. Ace, Hollow, both putting out some monstrous performances.
They were, and at the end of that game, all things said and done, Milan just struggled to get work done. It was because the Xayah was always in position, always having the ult. Milan ends up ulting into 4 people at the end of that, and Reiner gets the turnaround. Huge plays from V3, always on point, always threatening, and they take the game.
That they do, but we have got to go to a very short break where we gather our thoughts so we can talk about this a little bit more in depth on the analyst desk. So enough from us casters on the desk, and we'll be right back in a moment or two.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. One, Initialize, Nightmare. Gentlemen, we just watched V3 Esports and Crest Gaming Act battle it out, but there was only ever going to be a victor, and that was not in this game. Victor was not picked or banned by either of these teams. Disappointing, I know. But V3 were victorious in this match, and I think one of the early points to really bring up that we were talking about before we came off, Nightmare, was the early game of Crest Gaming Act. They had some opportunities, or they definitely found some with those dragons, but it just wasn't there, was it?
No, not really. And I mean, I look at these maps and I say, okay, Greg's gonna get shoved in by the Gnar. Rumble can struggle a bit versus Zoe, particularly when you have a ganking jungle like you did, which can pin you in place and have that kill threat. And bot lane went the way of V3 too. So in terms of the priority, CGA didn't really have much to play around in that regard. So they were looking for dragonflies, were looking for heralds to make something happen. This is what their comp is about, because you, as Sam was saying in cast, your first rumble ult of the game becomes quite important, you know, because it allows you to snowball the game, get yourself that golden pocket, get you to those next item spikes where you can, your wombo combo becomes, you know, irresistible. You can't do anything about that. And they struggled to do that. They didn't find a good wombo the entire game. This early game, they very much struggled to find the fights they wanted, even if they found the dragons.
Yeah, and something about that Rumble for Nahun is he hadn't ever really played it before. He played it once in the Casper Cup back in 2019, and then this is the first time of it really showing out from this player in the mid lane. First time out was really, really strong.
Yeah, very
Second
good.
time round, little bit sus this time. So we can certainly say that's hot and cold. But Initialize, let's go over to honestly this fourth dragon spot, because this was honestly the first huge team fight we really saw from both these teams on the map, and it ended up being, well, perfect for V3, really.
Yeah, V3 had been eking out kind of gold advantages before this. They got all the outer turrets. CGA were struggling to nail down picks around some of these dragon fights where, like, yes, they get the dragon, but maybe they'd lose a man or wouldn't be able to chase down people to finish up kills. Like, Hollow managed to escape a few times. And this time, all the outer turrets are down. CGA pushed back. They're like, okay, we need to get into this river. We've got the Scuttle Crab Shrine, so we know that they're not on the dragon. Let's force our way through this. Nation teleports in. And Reiner is over the wall. He crashes down into a 4-man magnet storm that was utterly, utterly devastating. Yes, Milan gets out, but he has to go backwards. And the feathers come through from Hollow, who destroys the rest of the team. Cog then forces Milan to flash back as he hops forward to look for a Meganar. And by that point, you're down 3 men. Nation is running away. And your AD carry is down to 20% HP and being slowed and eventually run down by the rest of V3. And they don't get Mountain Soul. They lose a massive fight. And at that point, you're thinking, these guys can't face check. And the likes of Hollow and Ace are just way too strong at this point. And it got really rough from there.
Yeah, and it looked like, okay, V3 are going to start really pushing the pedal down. They're going to really try and keep the momentum going. They've got a gold lead definitely now in their pockets, and it doesn't seem like the dragons that CJ had secured were really helping them in this spot. And to really add to this fact, even when Ace got picked out, Hollow was able to reply back and honestly kind of really throw the game into V3's hands, Nymera.
It was an overstep by the entire team of CGA. You sure you get the pick onto Ace, but it's not like you got out without losing any health, and then you see there was like 2 feathers recalled through, 2 or 3 members, and then the Boulder Toss lands. That's enough to kind of signal the green light for Hollow to gale force forward. And even then, even if he hadn't had that pick that pick damage beforehand, really, probably would have got a lot of chunks out because you'd have to run into Zyre at that point. He still got the feather recall. And that's very, very dangerous when you don't have that Ragnarok used in that previous play. Hollow just understanding the situation, but it feels like it was kind of gifted to them. I don't know whether just the state of the game was making CJ play things a little more hastily. But Hollow, well played, as it was done for most of that game from their AD carry, really, to get one of those game-winning plays onto their record.
Yeah, and then because of that mistake, they're able to pick up an extended Ace and a Baron. They do sadly lose Reiner for that exchange eventually because Rel was playing a little bit of protection duty, but they were able to get that Baron, which really changed the dynamic of this game, being kind of like, well, maybe if CGA find an opportunity, they can do something to, oh, bollocks, V3 have Baron, what can we do now? And I think the Mountain Soul fight initialized really kind of epitomizes how the rest of this game went because of how much they lost through just getting one objective in their way.
Yeah, at this point, it's looking pretty dire. CGA have got very few turrets. They're being shoved in multiple lanes. They run at Hollow on the reset from the Baron push. They kill him. It is a 5 versus 4, and CGA go, excellent. This is our chance to ground Mountain Dragon. This will get us Mountain so we can play from there. Couple problems with this. 1, their waves are in awful positions. Cog teleports top, stop shoving in the top lane. Nation has to back away from the fight as this big team fight. Rumble, who has at this point got a number of items and is pretty damn scary, and has to wander back towards the bot lane to try and clear out the wave there. And he ends up dithering around between the fight and the wave and doesn't really get either done. Is then a full V3 around the Drake. And Ace lands so many bubbles and just detonates Cassin. The smite goes down, and yes, CGA gets the Mountain Soul, but they lose so much health doing it, take so much damage in trade, and the gold lead is just so large on some of these V3 members that the fight afterwards, even though it is a numbers discrepancy, just doesn't go their way. Cog gets the top inhibitor, the bottom tower falls, and then all inhibitor turrets are down. They've lost an inhibitor, and yes, you've got Mountain Soul, but you lost so much in trade that it just wasn't worth it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is something a lot of analysts talk about, making even trades around the map. What are you giving up for going for one objective? Whereas if you go for the opposite side, it's like, okay, what's the trade here? There's always an exchange of currency in some facet. This was it. Let's just take over to the last little point here. And Nymera, Zoe's Ace, or Ace's Zoe rather, was pretty clean here. And Reiner on this brand new champion of Rel was very scary. Very
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think that as the two remaining members of the 2020 V3 lineup,
Yeah.
Ace and Reiner performed more than admirably. They were the primary playmakers in this team, and we're talking about, okay, well, maybe Muujin will be playmaker on the Udyr, and maybe it'll be the Kog'Kog, and we kind of thought that Reiner might do some stuff. Didn't expect it to be, four-man combos winning them the first big team fight of the game. It just seems like, once again, V3 having these kind of these the shadows of their greatness in 2020, just knowing how and when, importantly, to win a game. Just saying, okay, we can hold the early game like this, but we need to win at this point. They did it around the one Dragon fight where CJ didn't have vision. We're looking for that big combo, and they kind of allowed CJ to play into their own hands. And what both of these guys were doing around stuff like the Heralds and the Dragons were very, very important on their champions. So it's great to see them performing this well.
Absolutely. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going on a very short break here. But when we come back, we'll see if Crest Gaming Act can redeem themselves, or will the Jesters begin a streak of dominance? Find out after this break.